Good morning, everyone. I trust you are all well. I hope you are keeping well, looking after yourselves in these challenging times. If anyone does need any help or any assistance, please be in touch. So, today's learning is dedicated to memory of Hannah Rosa Bas, Abraham Rose, Reuven ben Gershon Weiner, Rachel Bas, Rav Mendel Shaw, Yosef ben Heschel Levi Smashi, Yosef ben Nathan ben Mordechai Austin, as well as Leah Bas Baiva, Riyako Speedbet, Ben David Aryeh, Tzipi Bas Mordechai, Avram Ben David Slavin, Shlam Ben Yisrael Morris, Bera Fegel, Bas Baruch, Shana Ben Eleli, Ben Bas Baiva, from Shoshana Bas Yaakov Shmuel, Caleb Bela Bas Henach, Yumio Yechiel Ben Moshe Eliezer, Sarah Marka Bas Ben Yomik. So we were discussing about some of the themes of Tefillah. Just let us take a step back before we go forwards. So a reminder that we are studying the second pathway. Rabbi Lord Sachs wrote 10 pathways, educational tools to finding God. The first was Jewish identity. The second is prayer. We are discussing about prayer. We mentioned yesterday or the day before, you lose track of time in COVID, don't you? That there are various aspects, and there is in fact a pattern in the formation of our prayers. So we said that the first part discusses about creation, right? This is the vehicle that transports us to God's presence. So if we think about the beginning of prayers, we start off by speaking about God in terms of being the creator. We say Baruch She'ama, Baruch Oseh Maseh Bereshit. Blessed is he who has made, right, the creations of the world, right? So we speak about God in the universal terms, and then we become more specific. So the next part, Rav Sachs says, is that when it comes to the Shema and Amida, perhaps the climax of our tefillot, of our prayers, what do? Is the experience of divine revelation. We are standing before God. Each of us are standing before God, but it's far more particular. It's far more specific. It is us thinking and speaking in terms of our national experience, right? And we are speaking on behalf of the Jewish people, but as well as that, we are also speaking as individuals. We then come to the after that, which is redemption. Think about the end of prayer. What do we say? Uvolad Zion, which is all about speaking about the coming of the Redeemer coming to Zion. And then we say Aleinu. What's Aleinu L'Shabeach about? Recognizing that God is one and he will be recognized as one, right? The idea of God's unity, right, being recognized and acknowledged by the world over is the ultimate purpose, goal of creation. So therefore we see that there seems to be a bit of we seem to like, I've got a little diagram I made of what I think is happening. So we seem to like go up, climax at the time of the Amida, and then all of a sudden things seem to taper off when we come to redemption. There are three other possible themes which are connected to these principles. There are three types of relationships that we have. There is between us and our fellow human being. There are that we call Bein Adam La'atzmo, between the person and himself. We have a relationship with ourselves. We can discuss that in a minute. Then there is Bein Adam L'Chavero, between us and our fellow human being, interpersonal relationships. And then there is, there is Bein Adam L'Makom, between us and God. So how does this manifest itself in prayer? So the idea of creation, the way that Rabbi Sachs understands it, is between man and himself. It's all about creation, right? That doesn't involve you interacting with anyone else. It's recognizing the creation that is there. That's between you and you, right? You are created alone. The next stage is between, when we come to the Shema and the Amida, divine revelation is between us and God. That's Bein Adam L'Makom. And thirdly, that's between us and God. And then the third one is the final part of prayer is Bein Adam L'Chavero, which is redemption between us and others. So we see what Rabbi Sachs is indicating is that there are various things and connections in the way that we interact and the way that we relate and express ourselves during prayer, reflecting the different types of relationships that we have. We do have a relationship with us and God. We do have a relationship between us and our fellow human being. That we also see on the two sides of the tablets of stone, the Aseret Adibros, the Ten Commandments. On one side, the first 5 are all between us and God, and then the second 5, don't steal, don't kill, don't commit adultery, are between us and our fellow human being. But there is also this Bein Adam La'atzmo, between a person and themselves. And the way that we are without anybody else being around, in terms of the way we conduct ourselves, even if no one else is there, is also something, and something for us to consider. And that is also addressed in the first part of prayer, says Rabbi Sachs. Let me just add one more point, and that is, he says that the Mishnah in Ethics of the Fathers, Shimon HaTzadik, sorry, I have forgotten, I'm speaking about between us and our fellow human being, and I haven't said good morning to all of you, wonderful people. Good morning to Carol, to Peter, to David, Caroline, to Mervyn, to Dr. Pass, to Richard, to Estelle, to Michelle, and to Rachel. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are doing well, feeling well. There are more and more people isolating at the moment. So if you haven't heard from anyone for a while, send them a text, a WhatsApp, give them a call, because a lot of people now are isolating for one reason or another. So Shimon HaTzadik, Shimon the righteous, he was one of the last men of the Great Assembly. And he used to say as follows, you're all familiar with this Mishnah, that the world stands on 3 things. It stands on Torah, right? The foundations of the world are Torah, right? Which is the laws of the Torah, right? Avodah, which is service of God, prayer and the like, and acts of Avodah, of Gemilut Chasadim, acts of kindness. And if we think about it, these are also, of course, there's overlap, but these 3 things also can tie in with what we just said about the different types of relationships that we have. When we pray, it's between us and God. When we do acts of kindness, it's between us and our fellow human being. And when we learn Torah, although it is between us and God as well, it is also just working on ourselves. So we're seeing a lot of overlap between the various themes that occur in our lives and in prayer. So it seems that the structure of prayer, which is what we are trying to convey today, seems to be constructed in a way which reflects the different elements of our personality and the way that the interplay which we have in this world, either the way that we are with other people, the way we are with God, or the way we are just with ourselves. And one has to wonder what it is, why it is that God made us like that, and why did the rabbis, the good men of the Great Assembly, make prayer in this way, creation, revelation, and redemption, right? What is it that we are meant to understand from it? So let me just read you a bit more. Okay, I want to go back and just read a tiny bit more from Rabbi Sachs. Okay, I'll read you the part about creation first. In the verses of praise, we climb from earth to heaven by meditating on creation. Like a Turner or Monet landscape, the Psalms let us see the universe bathed in light, but this light is not the light of beauty, but of holiness. The light, the sages say, God made on the first day and hid for the righteous in the life to come. Through some of the most magnificent poetry ever written, we see the world as God's masterpiece, suffused with his radiance. So in creation, in science, in the world that God created, it is possible to find and to see the beauty and radiance of God. And then we have revelation that he goes on to speak about. I appreciate it's getting late. So those are some of the themes that Rabbi Sachs highlights to us are in the prayers that we have in the morning. And one of the beautiful things that Rabbi Sachs lays out here is very often we look at the individual prayers, we look in the micro rather than the macro. We don't see the structure and the themes that are running through the overarching themes, and therefore we fail to look at, it's like looking close up at a Monet or a Picasso. So you'll see the beauty in that particular thing, but if you actually really want to see the full majesty of the masterpiece, you have to take a step back and see it in the contrast with all the other colors and the other aspects of the painting. And that is what Rabbi Sachs lays out in us understanding some of the themes and the way that we interact. And we should be aware of this, aware of the feelings that come up when we are on our own. What, how well balanced are we when we are just with us? How comfortable are we when we are just with ourselves? Can we go for a walk just with ourselves without our phone, right? And how do we behave when we're with other people? Are we comfortable with ourselves? Do we become a different animal completely? Do we try to be something that we're really not, but we want to give a certain image and impression, right? And how are we when we stand in front of God, right? How comfortable are we? How confident are we? How's our faith, etc., etc. Many points to consider and to ponder this day. Let's make let's do Psalm 23, and then we'll carry on with the memorial prayer. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Memorial prayer. Adon Elamim zacho es nishmai. Hannah Rose Abbas, Avram Rose, Reuven Ben Gershon Weiner, Rachel Bas Rav Mendel Shaw, Yosef Ben Heschel, Haj Alevi Smashi, Leah Bas Bible, Arav Yaakov Svivinov and Aryeh, Sachs, Sylvia Bas Mordechai, Avram Ben Davislavin, Shomin Yisrael Morris, Perifegel Bas Reuven Baruch, Shalom Ben Eli Ben Bas Bible, from Shoshana Mashiach, Shmuel Caleb Ben Bas Henech, Yirmiyahu Yechiel Ben Moshe Eliezer, Saramaka Bas Ben Yomin, Shalchu Li Olamam, Bagan Eden Teimenu Chasam, Lachin Malarachamim, Yasirein Beseisa Kana Babilon Lamim, Besovas Chesnish Wasam, Adonai Nachlasam, Yanuchu Bishlam Mishkavam, Venamar Amen. Lastly, for Shlema prayer. Mishaberach, Avaseinu, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, David, Shlomo, Yivarch, Rabes, Achailim, Babo, Shanu, Mispalim, Babo, Ram, Piskasa, Akadosh Baruch Hu, Yinveshkasa, Akadosh Baruch Hu, Yimali, Rachim, Alehem, Lachim, Pasam, Yishlachim, Mishnu, Shmaim, Echol, Besach, Shachol, Yisrael, Refuah Sanefesh, Refuah Sagov, Hashabak, Makarif, and Amar, Amen. Wishing you all well, keep safe, look after yourselves. And please God, we look forward to seeing a light at the end of the tunnel and then the ultimate redemption, and there'll be peace and good health for everyone. Look after yourselves. Look forward to